Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. So this was actually a song that was voted on and requested by you guys. So if you have a song that you'd like to request, please leave it in this forum post right here. I'll put the link in the description box below as well. But every couple months or so, we're going to go through that forum post and we're going to pick 4 songs and let you guys vote on which one we arrange and teach. So as far as this song is concerned, I've got to say that it's perfect for the intermediate fingerstyle player, but it's really an easy intermediate level piece, kind of like a beginner intermediate level piece, if that makes sense. I think it does. So it's not a hard fingerstyle tune to play. And one of the reasons why is because if we look at the rhythm of it, it's primarily eighth note rhythm. And when you encounter a piece of music that has a very consistent rhythmic theme, it makes it easier to focus on what the left hand is doing, things like chord transitions, but also on building or increasing your sustain. And that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about as we go throughout this tune, because we have to remember that this is a love song and we want it to have that beautiful, flowing, elegant sound to it. So we'll touch on that throughout the lesson, but let's go ahead and talk about the lesson really quick. So in this video, we're going to be learning the first half of the song. If you want to learn the second half of the tune, you can do so by clicking this link right here, or going to the site, rockclass101.com, and doing a search for Wonderful Tonight. Now, also on that page will be the tabs that you can print off and follow along with as a PDF format, as well as the on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a really great asset for learning this song that much easier. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the tune, but first, I want to talk about a few things that's going to help us out. So number 1, I mentioned that this song has eighth note rhythm. Well, we're going to be counting the rhythms as we work through it. So if you're new to doing that, I'll put an introductory lesson in the description box below that introduces you to understanding rhythmic notation, counting eighth notes, quarter notes, that kind of stuff. But honestly, guys, the best way to really comprehend that stuff, how rhythm and timing connects, is by learning to read standard notation. So you can do so by jumping into that full-length course. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is our right hand approach for finger picking. And this song really sets itself up well for a 3-finger approach. So that means thumb gets string 4 and 3, index would get string 2, and middle finger gets string 1. But sometimes we can use a 4-finger approach as well, especially if we're playing anything that's linear. So if you're going like string 4, 3, 2, just straight up in a row like that, then you can revert to a 4-finger approach. So kind of flip-flop between the two, but mainly this song is great for a 3-finger approach. And the last thing I want to touch on is, yes, this is a low G arrangement. So grab the low Gs. High G is going to sound really off at times if you're playing it with a high G. So definitely recommend a low G for this tune. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. The first 4 bars is our riff, and I'll go ahead and play through it, and then we'll break it down and learn it. So a really beautiful intro to this tune. And the first thing that we're going to notice, I'll put up the rhythm hits for measure number 1, is that it starts off with that eighth note theme. So keep that in mind as we work through it. So every note lasts the same length of time. Now, the first chord that we're going to be playing out of is just a simple C. It is going to be your ring finger on the 5th fret of string 4. The 3rd string is going to be open, and the 2nd string will be open as well. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that there is no first string, so you see the little X on it. So this whole first 4 bars does not play the A string at all. So I want you guys to keep that in mind as well. So we're simply going to start out measure 1, which sounds like, we're starting out with a walk down and then back up of the C chord. So go ahead and make that C, and you're going to play 4, 3, 2, 3. Okay, so let's give that a shot. 3, 4. Nice. Next, we're going to pluck 4 and 2 together. So string 4 and string 2 together, and then I want you to take the index finger and put it onto the 2nd fret of string 3. You're going to play that note. Now, it may feel a little bit awkward because this is quite a awkward stretch. So if you're new to doing stretches that involve the index finger, then check out this finger picking etude. I think we can put a link. And this finger picking etude introduces you to a tune that uses stretches of the index finger. So take a look at my index finger. See how it goes multiple frets? That's kind of awkward because most of the time when we play stretch chords, it's always a stretch between the first and the pinky, where the pinky does this crazy stretch, kind of like this little A minor chord, right? 2nd to 7th fret. But not too many times do we encounter something that requires our index to do a bit of a reach. So that etude is going to be a really great study for encountering and tackling stretch chords that involve the index finger. Anyways, back on track. Let's start at beat number 3. So we started out with string 4 and 2 together. Then we stretched with the index to the 2nd fret of string 3. Okay, after that, we're going to play the open C, so just lift it up. And then I want you to move the ring finger back a half step to that 4th fret and put the index back down on the 2nd fret. And you're going to pluck that together. So the second half you have. Okay, so let's try just the second half. 1, 2. Nice. Now, if we backtrack, let's try the entire first measure. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Now, one thing that I want to touch on is sustain. So we talked about that in the intro. So this is a song that you don't want to have a staccato-y sound. You don't want it to be... That's really exaggerated, but you don't want it to be choppy, right? You want it to have this beautiful sustain. One note rings into the next note. One chord rings into the next chord. And the way to do that is to let every note ring for its entire duration. And if we have chords, to keep the fingering held down for the chords throughout the entire length that it's being used. So to demonstrate, just from that first bar that we learned, that 3rd finger stays anchored pretty much the entire measure. You can see the first 7 out of 8 notes, it stays anchored, while every other note just rings out. Okay? The only time that 5th fret cuts out is when we have to move it down a half step to play the start of the next bar. So let's talk about the next bar. It's going to sound like this. Okay, and I actually played from the last hit that we did. So it's really important that we talk about bar number 2. You can see beat 1 is in white. That means that we're not playing on beat 1. Instead, we're holding the last hit of measure 1 into measure 2. So to put it into context, I'm going to play 1 into 2 and count it. You're going to hear me hit on end of 4, hold into beat 1, and then I start playing again on the end of 1. So slowly, it sounds and looks like this. 1 into 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, if I cut all the talking, it makes sense from a musical standpoint. You can hear just how it holds out and lingers, right? Da 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 bum, ba da 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 da. So we're gonna try that tie hold at the end of learning this bar. So let's start on the end of 1, but first we're gonna talk about this chord. So we already know this chord because we just did the fingering for it, but it's called a G6. So I want you to keep ring and index finger planted. Now we're going to start out by playing string 3, then string 2, then string 4. Okay, so that's our first hit. But remember, we start on the end of 1, so let's try that. 3, 4, 1, and 2, and... Nice. To finish that measure, we're going to play string 2, then string 3, and then lift up the index finger and play the open C. So we have E, D, C, or string 2, 2nd fret, open C. So let's try the entire second bar, starting on the end of 1. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now that C is going to last a quarter note, so all of beat 4. So again, with sustain in mind, keep every finger planted down for the entire duration. Okay, so if we backtrack, let's try 1 into 2. Remember, hold into beat 1 for bar 2. 3, 4. Okay, so the question is, did you do well or was it hard for you? Now, if it was hard for you, what I'd recommend doing is just practicing the transition from 1 into 2. So the way to do that is to start on the end of 4 and then play all of 2. So let's try that. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so you just want to loop that transition and then you want to go back. So let's try one more time, 1 into 2. 3, 4. Okay, so going on to our third measure, it's going to be playing out of an F chord. So just the stock F that we all know and love. So this measure sounds like. Very, very simple. So go ahead and make the full F chord shape. We're going to start with plucking 3 and 2 together. And then we're going to hit string 4, and then string 3, and then string 4. So let's try just the first half. 3, 4. Nice. To finish it up, lift the index finger up. We're going to play the open E, then take the ring, put it underneath, play the 2nd fret of string 3, and then the open C. So again, watch this middle finger. That one can stay constant and help to add to our sustain. Okay, let's try the entire measure. 3, 4. Awesome. Now, if we go into our fourth measure, we're going to be playing a really cool slide lick. So here's what it sounds like. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So first off, all quarter notes. So I want you to take the index, just put on the 2nd fret. So imagine you're making a regular G, but we only need 1 finger. So we're going to do 4 to 3. Now I like to do this cool little strum technique that basically I take my index finger, play the top note, and then use my middle finger to flick the melody note. Now this makes a little bit more sense when you look at it as a chord. If you were to make a G chord, I take the index and I strum down with the nail of the index, and then I pluck with the middle finger, the first string. Sounds like that. And you can hear it just makes the first string, the melody note. The melody note usually is whatever is the farthest away string from us. It makes that pop. So if you want to learn my technique that I use, I actually taught it in great detail in our lesson on Ukulele. So I'll put a link in the description box below to the specific timestamp that part of the lesson starts at. But check that out if you want to go more in depth into this little flick approach. But I'm going to start out this with the little flick approach. If you don't want to, you can pluck 4 and 3, or you can do a strum of 4 and 3. Just try to hit 4 and 3 only though. So I'm going to hit 4 and 3, and then I'm going to take the ring finger, play 4 on string 3, and here's where we have our little slide. So we're going to hit 4 again and slide up to 5. It's a quick slide. After that, keep the ring finger there, add the pinky underneath, play 5 on string 2. And again, keeping sustain in mind, we want to keep the fingers held down just to help add that sustain. So together that measure is, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. So if we backtrack, let's try 3 into 4, and then we'll do 1 into 4. So 3 into 4. Here we go. 3, 4. Nice. And let's backtrack all 4 bars. This gives us the entire riff. 3, 4. Nice. Now, as we move into our next section, this is going to be verse number 1. You're going to notice that it's playing out of the same chords, same patterns, positions, all that stuff, but there's a little bit of variation in the melody notes. And one thing I want you to think about is the melody that Eric sings, because we can take some of the notes and accent them. So for example, the first line that he sings is it's late in the evening, right? It's late in the evening, right? And that's usually how he sings it, right? You can hear certain words pop, certain melody notes pop. Da, 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 right? You can hear the ones that pop, and we can reflect that in our playing. And that helps make our playing more colorful, more interesting, instead of picking every single note at the same volume level. So we can accent, that's all accent means, is to make a note pop a little bit more. So let me play the first into that second bar. Listen to that melody line, think of the words that he sings, and you can hear that I'm going to pop those 2 notes that I just demonstrated. Okay, so I'm just hitting them a little bit harder, and we'll talk about which ones as we go through it. So starting it off, same C chord. This time around, we're going to go 4, 3, 4, 3. So it starts out with just that. Next, we're going to hit the second string, and then the reach with the index finger to the second fret of string 3, and then the open C, and then 4 and 2, creating that G6 chord. So very, very simple, very much almost the same as what we played for the riff. So the one that we want to accent is going to be the second string. So we have 4, 3, 4, 3, pop. Okay, so let's try that. And let's see if you can pop that one with me. Here we go. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and pop. Nice. Okay, so going into our next measure, remember we have that same little tie, so we're not playing on beat 1, but we're playing on the end of 1, and we have a variation, so we're not playing the G6, instead we're playing this G. So keep 4 and 2 intact, but add your middle finger to the 3rd fret of string 2. So this measure starting on the end of 1 is going to be string 2, string 4, string 3, string 4, string 2, string 4, string 3. Okay, so you just want to memorize that pattern. It's playing all out of this chord. So 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, 4, 3. Okay, so 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, 4, 3. All right, let's try together. Remember, end of 1, 3 and 4 and 1, and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, if we backtrack, let's try 5 into 6. 3, 4. So did you hear the one that I popped on that 6 measure? It was the first hit, the end of 1. So just keep that in mind. You can just accent a little bit here and there just to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the 7th measure. So we're playing out of the F chord, and it sounds like this. So very simple. So go ahead and make the F, and I want you to pluck 3 and 2. And then you're going to hold this one for quarter note, so keep that in mind. After that, we're going to walk down. 4, 3, open E, first fret, open E. So we have pluck. 4, 3, E, F, E. Okay, let's give it a shot. 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So beat 1 and 4 quarter notes. Okay, going into our next measure. This one is a little bit tricky. Sounds like this. So a very cool measure, but a little bit tricky. So out of that G5, you can do that little flick approach if you want. And after we do that, we're going to pluck string 3 by itself. So you have strum 3. And remember, when we're doing the strum, or if you're plucking it, hit 4 and 3 only. So ba ba. Now we're going to hold this into beat 2. Then we have a quick hammer on, which is 2 to 4 on string 3. Okay, so you have 1 and a. Okay, let's try just that. 3, 4, 1 and a. Now, after you do the hammer on, you've got to lift both of those fingers up, play the open C, and then the open G. Okay, so C to G. So if you put it together, all right, and rhythmically, 1 and a 3 and. Let's try just that slow. 3, 4, 1 and a 3 and. Okay, to finish it up, another hammer on. So we're going to go open G to the 2nd fret and then open C. Ba-da-da. But we have 4E and. If you tie all that together, that's what we get. So let's try it slow. 3, 4, 1 and a 3 and 4 and. And again, without me counting, 3, 4. Hi guys, so I'm sitting here editing and I thought I'd add a little note to this part of the lesson. Excuse the hair and check out the awesome shirt. But here's the thing. This is a trickier bar, so if you sing it, that may help you with getting that rhythm locked into your playing. So always, if you sing it, you can play it. So la da 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 ba ba da da. Right? So one more time. 3, 4 ba da ba da da ba ba da da. So try to sing it. It's going to help you play it. Anyways, back to the lesson. Now, let's do this. Let's backtrack. Let's try 7 into 8. Here we go. 3, 4. Cool. And if we backtrack again, let's try 5 to 8. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Nice. Now, that's the first half of verse 1. The second half is basically the same thing with a note here or there changed to create a little bit of a variation. So the 9th measure is identical to the 5th measure. Everything is identical. Looking at the 10th measure, there's one little change. You can see it happened on the end of 3. And here's the chord. So you're taking that G chord that we did, 4, 2, and 3, and we're adding one more finger, a little bit harder, but not too bad. Take the pinky, add it to 5 on string 1. So when you play this one, remember, start on the end of 1. You have 2, 4, 3, 4. This time around, you're going to pluck 1 and 2, and then hit string 4 and 3. So it's the same picking pattern. We're just plucking 2 strings on the end of 1. 2, 4, 3, 4, pluck, 4, 3. Okay, let's try it. 3, 4, 1. Okay, so let's backtrack. Let's try 9 into 10. Just that one little change. 3, 4. Cool. Now, if we look at the next bar, there's only one tiny change as well. So remember, we're playing the F. This time around, we're gonna, again, add one little finger. So make the basic F, take the pinky, you can put it on the 3rd fret of string 1. You could even use the ring if you want, but I think that feels a little awkward, so I'd recommend the pinky. So for this, you can do an accented strum. I think that sounds really cool. Kind of like a little raschiato, where one finger comes down at a time. It's like a little barrel roll. Now, if you're new to that technique, I did teach it super in-depth, kind of like the flick approach. That one is taught in La Gitanita. It's spelled like this. I'll put the spelling up there. I'll put the link in the description box below for that. It's a flamenco tune. It's super cool. You should check it out. But it's going to teach how to do the little rasgato strum. Now, if you watched AJ's performance, well, you obviously watch AJ's performance. He does a arpeggiated strum like that, but much faster, right? So he does one string at a time. And when you put it together in rapid succession, it sounds really cool. So his technique, I actually taught in an etude that he wrote, and it was all about doing that arpeggiated strum roll. So I can't remember which etude it is. I'll look it up and I'll put it there. But you can go to the site and do a search for it, and you can watch that one to learn his technique if you like it more. Of course, these are just suggestions. You can always do a regular strum. So that's always cool as well, but these make it pop just a little bit more. So we're gonna do a little accented strum, but the rest of the bar is the same. All right, so we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, right? So it's identical to measure 7. So let's try it. 3, 4, strum, 4, and ba-da-da. Okay, so if we look at the last one, again, it's going to be very similar to measure 8. The only difference is the last 2 notes. So it sounds like this. So it's actually easier to play. So it starts the same, the little G5 hit, then hit string 3, and then you have the hammer on, and then the open C, and the open G. So all that we had before, right? That carries us to the end of 3. So the only change is beat 4 and the end of 4, which is 3 and then 2. So you have 1 and a 3 and 4 and. Okay, so we have ba ba da 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 da, string 3, string 2. Let's give it a shot. 3, 4. Nice. All right, so let's do this. Let's backtrack. Let's try 9 through 12. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Awesome. So usually we play the entire verse together at this point, but since they're pretty much the same thing with tiny little minor variations, I think we'll just skip over that for this lesson. And let's go ahead and look at the chorus. So our chorus is interesting because it is 6 bars in length, so kind of an odd numbering. But I'll play the first couple and then we'll break it down and learn it. So go ahead and make the F chord. We're starting on F this time, and we're keeping it all 8th note steady. So I want you to strum 4 to 2. So I'm going to do that little flick strum approach. We go 4 to 2, then hit string 4, string 3, string 4. Okay, let's try 3, 4. Okay, at this point, you're going to do 3 pops. Da, da, da. And you can make those notes pop. So literally, just pluck 1 and 2. And we just want that to kind of pop, because that's the vocal he sings. Okay. After that, you're going to switch to a G5. So all you're going to do is take the middle finger and drop it down 1 string, and then take the ring, put it on the 3rd fret of string 2. And our G is open. So if we put that together, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, let's try 3, 4. Okay, so again, this is going to hold into beat 1 of the next measure. So we're starting on the end of 1, and we're going to play out of this chord shape. It's going to be a little bit tricky, so I'll give you an alternative fingering if you want to try another way, but let's keep with 2 and 3 for right now. So we're going to play on the end of 1. We're going to play string 3, string 4, string 3. So that'd give us our first half. So we have 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... Now here's the kicker. Take the pinky, put it on 4 on string 4 while keeping the other 2 fingers intact. You're going to play 4, 3, 2, 3. So I know it's hard, but stay with me. So 4, 3, 2, 3. Okay, keep that in mind. If we put the entire measure together, starting on the end of 1, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and... Okay, so very, very tricky, but I think it's the best way because it's going to lead us into our next bar. And you can see what my pinky just did. It slid up to that C chord that we played at the beginning of this song, but now we're using the pinky finger. All right, so keep the fingering in mind. An alternative fingering that you could use. Going back to the first bar of this chorus. After you hit those 3 pops, right, you can switch to first and second for the G5. And that means that your ring finger will get the 4th fret of string 4. So if you want to make it, if that's easier for you, you can do that. I think this is easier, but you may think I'm crazy, so who knows. So let's try this. Let's try just the 14th bar by itself, and we'll start on the end of 1, and then we'll backtrack. We'll do 13 to 14 with that tie. All right, so remember, start with the G5 intact. Either fingering is up to you. 3, 4, 1. Nice. Backtrack all 2 bars together. 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first couple bars for the chorus. Let's take a look at the next couple bars. So I'm going to play through them, but watch the finger that I'm starting out. We talked about this, the pinky. So here we go. Okay, so I lied. I played into the first hit of that next bar. Remember, well, it's tied, so technically, you know where I'm going with this. But let's talk about the big elephant in the room. So if you choose the fingering that I suggest for the last measure, that means that you're going to slide up to the C chord, that same C chord that we played at the beginning of the song. You're going to use the pinky finger because it's the logical choice. It's right there. So if you chose the other fingering, then you slide up with the ring. Okay? And that's going to affect the next chord that we play. So let's use the fingering that I suggested. So we're starting with the pinky on 5. We're playing that straight up C chord. So we're going to go 4, 3, 2, 2. Then you're going to take the ring finger, put it on the 4th fret of string 4. So just literally half step down. You're going to do strum of 4 to 2, and then use the middle finger to play the 3rd fret of string 2. So together you have... Okay, let's see if we can get it without popping the volume, kind of like that. There we go, it's much more beautiful. Now, if you chose the other fingers, then you're just going to use the other 2 fingers that are next to it. So start with the ring, 5, 3, 2, 2, then use the middle, strum, and the index finger. So up to you. The rest of the song will continue with the fingers that I suggest. So here we go. Let's try just up to there. Use whichever finger you want, doesn't matter. So here we go, 3, 4. Okay, so this note is going to get tied into beat 4, so hold it a little bit longer, and then drop down to basic A minor. And again, pluck 4, 3, and 2. So you're going to hold that into the first beat of the next measure. So let's try that. That'll complete this entire measure. 3, 4. Okay, if we look at the next measure, sounds like this. Okay, and again, starting on the end of 1. So keep the A minor intact. So we're going to play the open C, then use the ring finger to play 2nd on string 1, pinky to play 3 on string 1. Okay, that's the first half. End to end. Next, you're going to play string 4, then the open C. Lift those other 2 fingers up. You're going to use the ring finger to play the 2nd fret of string 3, and then the open E. Okay, let me call out strings, kind of confusing. 3, 1, 1, 4, 3, 3, 2. Okay, so hit pause and just work on that. It's a little bit of finger frenzy. Open C, 2nd fret, which is a B, to a C. Then you have the A note, then the open C, D, and E. Sounds like that. Here we go. Start on the end of 1. 3, 4, 1. Okay, now let's backtrack and put it into context. So this is 15 into 16. 3, 4. Very, very good. So going into the home run stretch, this is 17 and 18, the last 2 bars for the chorus. It's going to sound like this. So I think we might recognize one of those measures, the very last one, but we'll touch on that in a sec. So 17, to start with the F, we're going to strum 4 to 2, or you can pluck 4 to 2. Going to do a quarter note, then we're going to go string 4, string 3, string 4. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, last couple notes is the 2nd fret, and then lift up and play the open E. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Right, wonderful tonight, so we already know where we're at. Okay, let's try, super easy. 3, 4. Nice. And the last measure, I think, is identical to the 8th measure. Yep, so we already know that, just the G5. Okay, so let's try 17 into 18. 3, 4. Cool, and backtrack. Everything for the chorus. So all 6 bars. 1, 2, ready, go. Alright, so that gives us a good gist of the chorus. Now after the chorus, you're going back into the riff. And the riff is the same 4 bars we played at the very beginning of the song. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that will lead us into verse number 2. And verse number 2 just takes verse 1 and plays it up the neck. So we have a lot of beautiful movement happening. So it's kind of cool because we're starting out here, moving to there, and then moving down there. And that's where we're going to be kicking off on our part 2 lesson, which is verse number 2 and the rest of the tune. So if you want to watch the second half of this lesson, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Wonderful Tonight. Don't forget too, on that page is the tabs that you can print off and keep for your records as a PDF format, plus the really cool interactive tab player. So you can hit play, watch that tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.